All right. Well, we seem like the room's filling out. Got some folks coming in. Really appreciate everyone being here. Let's get going. I am Brandon Barton. I'm the CEO of Byte. Super excited to do, this is our second SoundBites webinar panel discussion. We really felt like there was a need to try to get folks that we appreciate and love talking about some of the things that we care about the most. And today's topic is what we like to call digital hospitality. And I have the privilege and pleasure to introduce our next two guests, and I'll ask them to just give a little hello and bio about themselves. But could not think of two more amazing brands to talk about hospitality than Chick-Fil-A and Shake Shack. Different origin stories, different sizes of group, but I think I really ventured to say that when people think about hospitality in the, quick service, fast casual, fine casual, however we want to define this space, I certainly think of your two brands first. This to me is the place where, today, if there's innovation and stuff going on in hospitality, in let's say, a fast environment and drive-through and volume and craziness and roadside, like Chick-fil-A is that. And when you think about how, first Danny Meyer and then passing that to Randy and Zach and folks to build community and hospitality around a roadside shack stand that kind of was not roadside, but sitting in Madison Square Park. This to me is the pinnacle of what we need to do. And we're going to figure out what digital hospitality means, because we all know what hospitality means, but this is a very important conversation that we need to be having. There are estimates of 80-90% of our industry's revenue is coming through digital channels now, likely to go down a little bit, but then come back up. But we'll get into all that. We have some fun topics to talk about. For those of you in attendance, really appreciate you being here. We're going to be doing this every single month to do some topics. So keep an eye out for that. Follow us on the social channels or like LinkedIn or whatever. If you do have questions, either questions are available or you should be able to chat some. I'll be able to see them and we can ask the Zach and Lauren at the end. Yeah, that's as much as we will go into from notices and all that other stuff. All right, so without further ado, Lauren, please, I would love for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Wonderful. Thank you, Brandon. Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren Sinclair. I am a principal program lead on a team at Chick-fil-A that we call Service and Hospitality. So very relevant for the conversation we'll have today. Our team is focused on creating remarkable experiences for guests and partnering with operators and team members to define what those processes might look like. My particular area of focus is mobile order fulfillment. So very excited to talk about digital, and particularly how digital works on a truly like digital phone web.com type space, but also how that translates into in-restaurant experiences and team member experiences. And I've been at Chick-fil-A for 4 years. Before that was at McKinsey.
Amazing. Zach.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Lauren, great to be with you here today. Brandon, thanks for having us. Just for the record, so Madison Square Park, there are 4 roads that kind of surround that burger stand. So,
but yet no one would truly get a car close to Shake Shack.
No, you can't park there. But
you can't.
So Zach Koff, I've been with Shake Shack the better part of 11 years since we opened our 3rd location, and we are now nearing the 300s around the world. Really excited. I'm Chief Operating Officer. Really been with the group since the beginning, figuring out operations no matter what format, what method, and what way people want to experience Shake Shack. And certainly as we're all experiencing, the physical experience has made a massive turn to digital. And while super exciting, it is all frontier. It is all, it's a new way to offer hospitality to people. When hospitality used to be such a person-to-person interaction. So excited to share and to learn on this call as well.
And Zach, you got to share with the audience, what was your first title at Shake Shack? Because there was 3 stores. There was no COO back then. It wasn't even a separate company. It was still part of Union Square Hospitality Group.
I was the director of operations for Southern Florida, and there was one location. So I was effectively the general manager of the one location. But
I just like thinking about that because we have been friends before that and since that point. And for anybody in the audience who might be at their one location or might be thinking about joining a company at that size, like, here's a great example of how hard work gets you into a C-suite of a publicly traded company. I mean, and congrats on that. That's an incredible journey.
Thank you. A series of unlucky and lucky, fortunate and unfortunate accidents all along the way.
Yeah, Zach has also picked up his comedy since then, because we know there were 20-hour days mixed in there, getting stuff done, flying around the world and all that. So look, let's start just to baseline set. We're still in the midst of a pandemic. What is going on in your restaurants, in your brand with regarding reopening? Let's just get people to that point. Maybe talk a little bit about the transition of, like we said, a lot of digital clearly for the past year. We know that. Maybe just talk about what's going on in the last couple months, couple weeks, as far as like reopening dining rooms. Lauren, maybe give us a national perspective on that.
Absolutely. So Chick-fil-A has about 2,600 restaurants in the U.S., highly concentrated in the U.S. We have a few in Canada as well. And the last year has been, I would say, a great learning and innovation experience for us, where we were well equipped going into the pandemic for restaurant dining shutdown because we're such a heavily drive-through business in so many places. But still, we have inline restaurants in urban centers, we have mall restaurants, college campus locations as well that were more heavily impacted by the pandemic shutdowns. So really required us to be creative in those service processes and ordering channels. We have pre-COVID relationships with national partners, but also saw a huge increase in what we call operator-led delivery. So our team members in vehicles or on scooters going out and delivering to homes and businesses during the last year or so. And as we're looking to transition back to in-restaurant dining, we're really focusing on moving slowly and trusting in the guidance and discretion of our franchisees. We call them owner operators. We recognize that there are a lot of nuances, kind of local feel, customer comfort with coming back in the restaurant, team member comfort with being back in the restaurant, that we couldn't just mandate like a blanket statement about what it looks like to reopen. So certainly with that decision is with our local franchisees, and they're helping us understand what's happening on the ground, what kind of tools they need, and how we might open together more safely.
Great. And did the general sense is that clearly the restaurants are open, but not a lot of the indoor dining is open today. The majority of it is not. Right?
Yeah, just a few hundred across the country are open for dining in places where it makes sense. Like some neighborhoods and communities are itching and eager to get back to in-person dining experiences. There's also kind of an operational reality. Many of our restaurants have seen major increases in delivery and drive-through, that they've used the inside space for additional storage capacity or team member space so that we can properly socially distance our team members on their breaks and during training. So we're kind of leaving it up to the operators to determine when it makes sense to roll back some of that activity and roll in more dining.
Amazing. And Zach, on your side?
We have, of the nearly 200 domestic restaurants, we're open to about 94% of our restaurants are open.
Wow.
But when I say that, the vast majority of that is partially open,
yes,
which is drastically more complicated than just being open.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, Brandon, going back to sort of our maybe more full service days, the actual experience has turned a little bit more into a host and seated experience, which you wouldn't have expected. You don't really expect that at Chick-fil-A, you don't expect it at Shake Shack, but we are managing how many people can go in. And in order to do so, you create basically a front door host and, like a new table turnover crew, which was new for us.
Yeah.
But it's remarkably complicated, and to match the increasing demand for people wanting to come back out and eat somewhere with the steady state of digital that's existing, matching all of those so that they don't conflict with each other, compete with each other, both in the guest experience and the employee experience. I have 186 different versions of it out there. Yeah. So it's challenging, but we are excited that I think the surge of people wanting to come back out and eat is massive, and we are excited to get as many chairs filled as we're allowed to. And it's hard, but it's great.
Yeah, that's great. And I think you made a really kind of point that we'll definitely be talking about, which is how much is digital going to drop, even if in-store comes back, right? Like, I guess the prediction is it's going to drop a bit, but we all know that, in a lot of, in such unfortunate ways, there's less restaurants today than there were 1 year ago today. And so I would, I hope and think that many of the restaurants that you both run were able to make it through. You have good corporate structures behind you and can allocate capital where needed to help people and so forth. So this makes same amount of mouths who want to eat things, maybe even in a higher volume because they missed an entire year of eating out. And now, but with potentially the same or similar amount of digital and more people coming in, this might be the in a good way, the perfect storm for the next few months. This summer might be that, amazing comeback, roaring 20s style summer. Now, another topic du jour before we get really into the digital hospitality stuff, hiring. We're hearing the New York Times stories about how it's hard to hire and this and that. We know it's hard to hire in the industry. Are you both feeling the same thing in terms of being able to bring team members on across the country? Just yes. Yeah, I'm seeing you both shake yes. Seems clear in that case, and maybe antithetical to what I thought actually would happen coming out of the pandemic. There might be, since we're in a little bit of a higher unemployment rate than we were, a year and a half ago. So it's an interesting thing to think about. But here we are. We have potentially digital to lean on to help supplement some of the activity in the restaurant, some of the activity for the guest experience. So let's jump right into it. I think the question that I'd like to start with is just a simple, what is one of the most, hospitable digital experiences that you've ever had? I don't even care if this is related to restaurants, but I want to get a sense of, what do you look at and say, that felt really good to me? Either one can. Zach, why don't you start this time?
Yeah, I will say, just because it continues to stick out, I took my family to Disney. My two little girls, and this was 3 or 4 years ago, and they had the armbands, like yes. the magic band. And when I first got it, it was very clear. This is just I get it. It's my hotel key, and I don't have a wallet. I can just charge things on this. And that was sort of the very functional, obvious part of it. But what blew me away were all the other things I hadn't thought of that they thought of that I would use it for. And if you walk around Disney, everyone's taking your picture, right? And what they would do is they'd just scan your little tag and they'd say, your pictures are available for you. I was like, what are you talking about? Like they always give you that ticket that you never keep when you walk out the door, but what a fascinating convenience that was. And then going to the dining areas, when we scanned in, they knew food preferences. Like it was all the things I hadn't really thought they would use it for that felt very on my side and just very, I'll hand it to them. It did feel magical. Like it said it was the magic band. That's exactly how it felt. So I was blown away by that digital experience.
Cool. And what's funny is I think in the news recently, and I could be getting part of this wrong if anybody from Disney is in the audience, sorry, but they're actually doing away with the physical bands now. And I think that there is a digital solution to the Magic Band that might include QR codes and NFC because they see maybe reutilizing some of these physical items as something that is burdensome, and maybe we've all taken a digital step forward with understanding how to do stuff with a QR code, for example. Lauren, what about you? Just what in your past has kind of made you feel that magic about digital hospitality?
Certainly, I have a recent Chick-fil-A example that I will share. So
Good.
originally from Michigan and currently living in Arizona, so away from my family from the last few months, and really kind of missing that in-person connection and just more casual interaction that you'd have with family if you were closer. And thankfully, we've opened a few Chick-fil-A's in Michigan, like around my family's hometown in the last few months. I would have normally been there at the opening, kind of experiencing it with my grandmother, who doesn't have a lot of Chick-fil-A experience. But we have a feature in our app where you can share a treat with someone. So if you earned loyalty points, you can actually like buy a meal for someone else using those points and sort of shoot it to them through the app. So that has been really fun. It was really good to encourage my family to download the app and kind of get into the digital swing of things from a Chick-fil-A perspective, but then also to be able to share some of my favorite menu items with them or things that they maybe wouldn't normally think about trying, just kind of shepherding as an experience that I would have done in person with them, just doing it virtually. So that was
That's
kind of
great.
one for me.
Now, did you hear any feedback from her? Like, getting a gift and then being able to redeem it, right? There's another step there, which is somebody else on the other end. You send this thing digitally. Did you hear any feedback from her? I'm sure it was positive, but was there like, is that a seamless transaction in the store? Tell us what would have happened for her.
That's fair. So once from your app, like the giver from your app, you'll select what treat you want to share, and then you can enter the email address of the person, the recipient, and they receive an email where there's a link to just click on the treat, and it'll automatically populate in their app. And then there's a part of the app where you can see all of your rewards and like an operator at a restaurant level, they can send treats to guests in the same way. So it's very similar to a process that we'd already been using. We just wanted to open it up. That we heard a lot. Actually, the origin of it was parents wanting to send gift cards and treats to their college students, but because of the nature of our license relationships, not many of our licensee partners, which is how Brandon and I we started working together through Chick-fil-A and Bite. Not many of our licensed partners can accept Chick-fil-A gift cards.
Sure.
So the treats was kind of a stand-in for being able to share a Chick-fil-A experience with someone apart in a more personal way.
Oh, that's great. I mean, in the world of technology that we stride food and technology, but we're a technology company at Bite. We often find this challenge of being able to share experiences with each other as we're a remote company right now. In fact, we had our Toronto team. Toronto's in a place where they're completely shut down right now as a city, hopefully for not too long. But we've put in a little program where one person every Friday is going to be buying lunch for the rest of the team, courtesy of Bite, of course, on our dime. But they're going to pick the lunch and send it to everybody. But it's a heavy logistical thing. So the fact that they, if there were more Chick-fil-A's in Toronto, maybe we could do this just via Chick-fil-A. But I love the idea of gifting and being able to send that. And I bet you corporate culture is going to turn this direction as we go back to hybrid working and who's not working on the day when we do the all hands or the lunch or the whatever. I bet you leaning into that feature is going to be very good. Well, look, let's go right into this subject of some of the digital hospitality trinkets and treats that exist within your world. Lauren, that's a great example of one. Are there others that between, Zach, are there other kind of examples where you feel like the hospitality is exemplified in a digital experience for Shake Shack, either today or what you guys want to be doing going forward? Don't tell us too much of your secrets, but.
Yeah, I think the way we're thinking of it, and we are probably a few moves behind Lauren and Chick-fil-A. We are, you can shake your head all you like.
300 stores versus 2,600 stores. It's a little, you might be a little resource constrained.
Well, I mean, Chick-fil-A has just they have a legendary sort of app platform. So such a great thing to build off of. I think as we're building, and we're in the early stages of building this strength for ourselves, but I think the approach we're taking is, of all the moments when you would interject hospitality in an in-person experience, right? Can you do that with a digital experience? And I'll give you a couple, examples that we don't have the solution for, but it's what we aim for.
Yes.
So you say, we just opened up in Indianapolis yesterday, and lines around the corner, right? Which, thank goodness, I still feel very humble when I see that happening. But if you were there physically and you were waiting in line, we would recognize, wow, you're waiting in line, and that's a thank you. And we would bring custard, and we would bring things out to the line and sample the line, right? So in a similar situation, we have some app availability where you can order ahead, but obviously that can't be unlimited. Otherwise, everybody in line would just place their order in line and then expect to happen. So there was also, that filled up, but what we didn't see is how many people were technically online to place an order who couldn't actually do it. So not only do I not have visibility to that, which I would want, because I can do that in the physical world, but then what can I sample then? Like, what is the digital version of a sample? I don't know, but that's the way to apply some of our hospitality to them. The other one, which we're a little bit farther along on, which is really just problem resolution. When you used to walk up to the counter at Shake Shack and say, hey, I ordered cheese fries and I don't see my cheese. We would, without question, just say, I am so sorry, instantly to your face. And I probably would get you cheese fries and then custard and then name your other thing.
Yes.
To just have a make good. And that was always very positive. It turned a negative into probably a 2x hospitality experience that we wouldn't have had the chance to do otherwise. So in the digital space, if something's missing, man, I wish I could be instant to respond, but it takes a lot of work to be instant. You either can get someone on the phone, maybe, which is still physical, or you have like an in-chat bot, but even that still takes okay, did you have a problem with this? Was it this item? So there's a lot of work to make it instant. And then still, how do you get them the thing you missed? Because that's the other piece that was great too. So I'm not sure what it is yet, but we endeavor to figure out how to take the best of what happened in in-person resolution and hospitality and doing something and being on your side and creating a digital version of it. So it sounds like, Lauren, you've already done all that. I'm jealous, but
well, Zach, I think you bring up a really interesting point. If we were to say, I would say, when I talk to operators around the country, there is a bit of a fear of taking something that is like a benefit of what can happen in person and putting it at scale digitally, right? So you even suggested, if we made a mistake, we might not just fix that mistake, but go above and beyond. But I think it would be a very hard decision for your organization to say, every time we make a digital mistake, let's go 2x above that. Somebody in the finance team would be, hey, wait a minute, should we have this all go unchecked? Because when you have a person, kind of making that judgment call, it feels better. Even if you have the budget to say, this is our promotions line and whatever, it's our comp line. When you have a person doing it, feels better than if it's just happening automatically. And I wonder if that's even a topic of conversation, right?
It is. I think, Brandon, what you've nailed is, and this is what I'm really, and I wrote it down, Lauren, because I think that sharing a treat, right? That only works if the person knows what treat that person would like.
Sure.
Right? If I sent you a cookie every single time I made a mistake and you can't eat sugar, that's a really frustrating, automatic, and wasteful, and it just didn't hit the tone. So you're right. It's not just about going above and beyond. It's about going above with the thing that you understood about me that would make me feel better. And that becomes very difficult without that. That's not a formula. That's definitely a human or
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Whatever else you could figure out.
Yeah, the human element seems really critical in that. Like, and we think about this a lot at Chick-fil-A as well. Like, if there was an error either in the like a person-to-person interaction or in the digital space, does it feel equally as good from the guest perspective to have a virtual or kind of digital resolution? It may feel impersonal, like it may, even if that was the thing that I want, maybe I did want the cookie or I just wanted to be refunded for the item. Like, did we also miss an opportunity for connection and for true recovery? And then how do you do that at scale personally? I think that's definitely something um, all QSR would struggle with, but would want to think through really thoughtfully and execute in a unique way.
Yeah. And there's actually a good question. Just we can bring this up now, just from a tech perspective. David Jordan in the audience was just asking for Lauren, what company do you use for Share a Treat part of the app? And I'm going to guess, knowing Chick-fil-A, is that something that your team has built out in-house?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a part of our native app. Like we build, we have a partner certainly, but we build and own all of our source code and want that to be a part that we have a good amount of control over. So yeah, we do that internally. It's the same program, like I shared, that we use for operators being able to share treats and do giveaways for restaurants.
Yeah, I know Zach and I have a bit of a shared history with working under the Danny Meyer tree. So we would always call that an SFN, a something for nothing, right? And so, Share a Treat is the something from a manager perspective. It's the something for nothing, the SFN program, which I love. It's funny because both your companies, I know, I'm familiar with the idea that you guys both do build a lot of this stuff in house, and I think that indicates. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think that indicates, from a tech perspective, you want to be such in control of the experiences that your guests go through because you care so much about the hospitality. And by the way, as an outside tech vendor, that's not to say that we also can't do things like this for brands that we work with, but certainly development cycles being under your own thumb matter in this sense. Zach, one thing that also came just to my mind as you're talking about the digital line, I don't think I've heard any company really doing a great job of maybe not even quantifying that, but registering that. So when I was at Resi, we worked with some of the top restaurants around the country that were, they may have had 40 seats a night, and there may have been 400 people who want to sit in those 40 seats. And I can remember working with restaurants there was one of the big openings during my time there was Lilia. Shout out to Sean Feeney. Dot, you're in the audience. Love you, man. That restaurant would open, and there was 400 people, above what they could take on the waiting list. And so he would start going through. This is something we were working on together. Going through and figuring out who's been on that waiting list that didn't get an opportunity to get into our restaurant. Let me call them specifically. And I can imagine the same thing, like you're saying, Zach. Who are these people that really wanted to order at noon but really couldn't order till 2, so they didn't order? What are they having for lunch tomorrow? Can I put them first in line tomorrow? Can I even save them a spot? And again, we are trying to talk about this digital frontier where we don't know what is possible, but people that are kind of sitting in my seat and others, and maybe hopefully some people in the audience, that's a product. How do you give somebody the time? If you want to order lunch on Friday, yeah, you can order ahead and do things like that. But here's a special time slot for you, so you can always make sure to order on Friday if that's what you want to do. Well, I want to get a little bit further into some of these things. What do you, in the months, years ahead, without sharing the secret sauce, what do you feel like are some of the new digital or tools that will be used in your hospitality tool belt? Maybe this could include voice. I'd love to hear a little bit more. Maybe Zach, you're on the beginning parts of drive-through that has been announced. What do you see as important in the future from the tech side in terms of the tool belt of hospitality?
Yeah, I'll say that it revolves around being able to have an omni-channel view of the guest. I mean, hands down, no matter how they interact, you need to have to be able to understand their interaction history. And I think actually pretty much everybody can collect, everyone's going to get better and better at collecting that kind of data. I think the art form will be, how does your company personalize that in a way that makes sense for your own culture, your own style, but also what your guest is expecting out of you as well. And to me, there'll be a delicate balance. And I don't know if I'm answering your question specifically about what tools, because at some point it's all about just how many different ways can you pull this information in.
Sure,
right?
sure.
There's that. I think we'll all have to walk this fine line, especially in restaurants and hospitality, which is, I think all of us know our information is being collected.
Yes.
So how do you send that back to me in a way that feels meaningful versus intrusive? Right. And it'll be, I think we're there already. I mean, you start seeing these other internet browsers that don't allow, we're about to get there, and the privacy and all those things. So we're on the precipice here of saying, okay, like, you can have some of my data, I accept some of it, but I'm going to be really creeped out if you're using it inappropriately. And it'll feel bizarre if you serve it up in a way that feels like you shouldn't have known that about me at all. Right. So, we think of things at, when we're designing the drive-through and some of those experiences, right? For us, it's always, how is this the Shake Shack version? How does this add a level of hospitality, which just might not exist in your traditional drive-through? And just for it to say, "Hi, Lauren," as you approach, we got to figure out how to do that, right? Before we start serving up anything, how do we just welcome you correctly?
Yes.
Because I don't think anybody is necessarily freaked out when you welcome them by name, but one level deeper than that starts to get a little tricky, right? Starts to get a little, too much about me already. But to me, it's about that welcoming moment, because when you walk in a restaurant, it's Norm, and you're Norm, and everyone shouts Norm, right? That feels good.
You're aging yourself, in case anyone's in the audience is referring to the show Cheer.
I'm referring to a Pizza Hut commercial. Sorry, Domino's commercial.
Well, Zach, one thing there's a part that is the guest's willingness, you brought this up, to share that. Because if Lauren knows that she said, "Hey, Shake Shack, I'm Lauren. Here's some stuff about me. When my car, maybe here's my license plate. When you recognize my license plate and I'm pulling in, or maybe here's the digital signal that my phone has, and maybe when that reaches a transition or a radius around the store, or comes into passes over an NFC. I mean, there's so many different ways to do this with the tech. Then you feel free to say hi to me. But if Lauren didn't know she gave you her name and you said, "Hi, Lauren," that's the point in which it's like, "Hi, what?" Lauren, what is your thoughts on what's on the frontier? What's next in terms of digital, for you, but in the space in general?
Certainly. Yeah, so I think two aspects I'd love to share. So there's one in that we love to be innovative and kind of experiment with different ordering channels, even within mobile. So we have mobile carryout, which is probably the more traditional way about thinking about mobile. We have curbside, which we had before COVID, and it was very interesting. Many restaurants or lots just didn't accommodate it. Restaurants maybe had 2 curbside parking spaces. And obviously over the course of the last year, restaurants having the whole lot or 30 spaces dedicated to curbside. Obviously, many other businesses are using curbside now, so it's becoming a preferred channel for guests. We have drive-through, and there's also a mobile element to that where you can order ahead and check in with a team member if you so chose, if you didn't want to order at the speaker box or with our outside team member. And we also have mobile dine-in, where we have NFC chips on our tables, where if you order with your app, you can check in and we know where you are in the restaurant, and we can bring the meal to you specifically. So I think it will be interesting. And that's not even to say like the delivery aspect of mobile, where we have partnerships. And then, like I shared before, we have our own Chick-fil-A led delivery. Yeah. So it'll be curious to see over the next year or 2 years, like where those different channels fall, and what unique need states each of those guests have, and how we can tailor the experience to better serve that. So we know our curbside program, which was kind of in the past, it was called like the mommy delivery. It's for that guest who can't get out of the car, does not want to get out of the car. it's not just for mommies anymore. So like, what does that
Yes.
look like now in this season of life? Why would someone do their order ahead of time, but then still sit in our drive-through line? Like, we need to understand that particular person's need state. The dine-in mobile ordering was developed because when we think about like the history of Chick-fil-A, dine-in has been a really elevated hospitality experience within QSR. People love the personable nature of our dining room hosts, and it's very generous to sit in a Chick-fil-A and have a dining experience. So it's very disappointing when you've ordered at the front counter and you turn around, very similar, I'm sure, at Shake Shack, like the lines are long, the dining room's filled, and you don't have a really great way to actually sit down and enjoy your meal. So how can you, what's the additional value of them ordering at the counter? Not much if they already knew coming in that they wanted to sit down and dine with us. So that'll be like a big ongoing exploration for us, just understanding each of our channels more, why guests are choosing them. Another great example is our Chick-fil-A delivery. So we've heard very frequently from guests who choose that channel that they trust Chick-fil-A and they trust our team members more so than they might trust a third-party delivery driver. There's maybe just a little bit more of a chain of accountability there, like if something were to happen. So we've heard people like to order food for their children, and they feel comfortable with their children opening their door and being served by a Chick-fil-A team member compared to a stranger. So how might we continue to focus in on the unique benefits and values of each of those chains? I think that will be great work for us over the next few months. And then also, when we talk about the kind of digital experience and digital hospitality, the digital part is only as good as the physical part, or like the restaurant's capability to absorb that business. So when we're thinking about tools, a lot of them are behind the counter. Like, how might we make it easier for our team members to execute those meals at the level of specificity and the volumes that we're seeing in our restaurants? It's imperative. And you touched on it a little bit before with hiring, but we depend on our team members for so much, and we ask them to do so much. So it is our obligation to make their experience as seamless as possible. They add value to our guests in unique ways that counting sauces might not be that, but our guests do care that they've gotten their 3 Chick-fil-A sauces and their 3 Polynesian, 2 mayo, and a certain number of napkins. So we want that experience to be met, of course, but is our team member the best person to be doing that? We're starting to think about those different areas of fulfillment and execution where we might use technology to ease the process.
Interesting. Did I just hear about maybe tech counting the sauces for you that go in the bag? Maybe that's what I just heard. Well,
Lauren, if we can go in on that together, that would be amazing. I will share that.
How many ketchups in the bag? Well, look, Lauren, I think one thing that is interesting to me, and I wonder if either of you are starting to track this or tracking this today, there's some, because you own your own tech stacks, there's some central place where you might recognize the same person who bought digitally here, digitally there, this store, maybe curbside this time. Do you actually track maybe how many different channels those guests actually go to? Does a in-store diner, and again, we're not really in store right now, so like we'll see what that means, but does a curbside diner a guest turn into a drive-through guest, or is it vice versa? Is there like a funnel here that we're talking about of journey of somebody's digital experiences with you? Is it most of the time their first experience is ordering from the Shack app or the Chick-fil-A app? We don't know yet. All right, good. This is good. I think the short answer seems like we don't know.
Yeah, I'll say the answer is I know we're endeavoring to match all those, right? And I think for us, and if you're e-commerce, everyone has an account, and that becomes very easy to track it to an account. You start with the account, you sign in with your account, so your entire life cycle is measured and tracked. I think if you're Chick-fil-A, you're Shake Shack, one day you come in, and if you didn't sign in, your only information is credit card, which is only as good as they can circle it back to you. If you're on the app, that's fine. You've understood that. If you went through drive-through that day, unless you've signed in or there's something else tying you back to you, I think it's very hard to correlate all that information, but Lauren, if you're like us, I mean, it's very valuable to us if we can do that, because then, to your point, Lauren, you start understanding the need states and the reasons why they're curbside today and drive through tomorrow. And that helps you paint a picture that you can react to better. So future state, that's ideal. That's that omni-channel presence that you hope to be able to pull together with, because you can do something very hospitable.
Yeah.
With that information.
Yeah, that's almost the baseline set that you need to maximize the personalization. And so there's a part of me that wants to almost equate the words hospitality and personalization. Would you both agree with that? Is that getting towards the same direction? Like, you really almost can't have hospitality without, and I'm asking, I don't know if this is true, you can't really have hospitality without knowing and personalizing something for somebody.
Yeah, certainly. At Chick-fil-A, we define hospitality simply as caring for people, like caring for someone specifically. And when we think about our digital strategy, we like to say, you must know that person to care for them in their specific way. So I do think there's some connection there, certainly. I think there are general traits that we can understand, just people who choose to use mobile channels, maybe if you're not even personalizing things within that channel specifically, but we know how to treat that channel. Like, for example, Chick-fil-A is a very hands-on experience usually, and we have really wanted to kind of maintain that special connection between guest and team member. Like, for the longest, we didn't really have mobile pickup shelves or things like that, because we wanted our team members to proactively hand the meal off to the guest or delivery driver and ensure that there was a human connection piece there. But we're just learning over time, like, speed of service is a top love language of guests who are choosing the mobile channel, regardless of which channel they choose. So how might we tailor our hospitality experiences, even generally at the service channel level, to best suit those guest needs? Absolutely. And then as guests are providing information for us, we do have tools where we can understand if guests they join us for breakfast more often, so we can send breakfast treats to them, or if they haven't joined us for breakfast yet and we want to proactively encourage them to join us for breakfast, we certainly do those sort of kind of interactions through our mobile channels.
Techniques, if you will.
Yeah, Lauren, I think you nailed it there. It's funny, for so many, or I guess a lot of history, you would say that personalization was a lot more about the product with which you served. And I think what we're finding right now is personalization is also the method with which you serve it, right? And I think what you hit there, Lauren, is I place an order on the app because I didn't really want to talk to you, frankly, right? And when I pick it up, I want it to be there, and I still don't want to talk to you. I don't really care if there's a cookie in there. Is it there? And did I actually get to not talk to anybody? So personalization for that person truly is, did you just live up to the expectation specifically of that person that didn't, that wasn't the answer for somebody else? And I think we find that too. I mean, Brandon, you and I went back with kiosks forever.
Yeah.
The kiosks were, I can do this on my own. I don't need your help right now. Right. And it's like, okay, okay, well, that is your journey, and I'm happy to help you if you need it, but have on, your questions, your own questions. And that was personalization as well, which was just recognize that I can do this my way.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you bring that up, Zach. I think the modern quick service, fast casual restaurant, the store of the future, as everyone's putting together the stores of the future, are going to, in some ways, be maximizing on the amount of different service experiences that people can take, because 10 people will walk in the door and they may have 10 different needs. There might be some group that want to sit down and take their phone and scan an NFC tag and order off their phone and sit there. There might be another that wants to go to a kiosk. There might be another that wants to sit in the car, like you're saying, Lauren. So I think the smartest operators right now are saying, we're going to open up many of these channels and see how our customers react to them. And we're probably going to find that we have customers that want to live in all of these digital states, not just one or the other. And maybe the same customer on a Tuesday wants to order ahead, and on a Friday, just strolling by and said, I'll pop in, or just driving by and said, I'll go through the drive-through. So look, we got a few minutes left here. Folks, if you did want to ask some questions, there's a Q&A button at the bottom. Let's hit that. I have one other just kind of topic that I want to bring up. Then we'll see if there's some questions. If not, we'll wrap. I wonder, the one word that actually we have not brought up is loyalty. And so it's interesting that in a full topic, full conversation around hospitality and digital hospitality, loyalty is not the first word we are attracted to bring up. And I thought maybe to ask each of you, to the extent that you want to, let's talk about what's the difference in loyalty and hospitality, right? Is there, and we didn't talk about this beforehand, so I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but why didn't we bring up the word loyalty here? Is that feel a little bit more transactional? Is that what it is versus kind of, personal and wholesome?
I'll give you our take, and it's funny because it's been a hot topic for years now. And even, full disclosure, it's confidential, right? Yesterday we literally had just a re-breakout session and just say, we've said loyalty means a lot of things, but can we just revisit what we actually think a loyalty program is intended to do? And I think that's a little bit, you're right. Loyalty, personalization, customization, just, are you trying to, and loyalty often is a lot more about frequency. Or at least historically, it's been about, okay, I hook you and I can get you, another transaction and those sorts of things. I think more than ever, it's all these other things we've been talking about. We just don't call it loyalty. It is, how do I make you feel better? How do I recognize you so that you just feel like this is where you want to come? Not that there's a hook, but that I sort of hooked you emotionally,
yes,
and experientially, not financially necessarily. So I think that's where, that's where we are. We don't have a formal loyalty program.
I was gonna say, can you give us the notes on that meeting? The break? Can we just share?
I think you just got them.
Okay,
you definitely just got the output of that meeting.
Had 45 Shake Shack people in a room, and that's with an hours of work.
For years now.
Multi-years.
This is the thesis. Lauren, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly. So we do have a loyalty program through our Chick-Fil-A native app, and kind of view it as in the spirit of generosity and connecting with guests and rewarding them for continuing to service us. We have tiers of our rewards program, so there are different kind of treats that are unlocked at each of those tiers. Our red status is our top level, and certainly in addition to earning points that you can redeem for food, you can also have special experiences, like we host a Chick-fil-A bowl game, so there are special photo opportunities and things that people can participate in if they happen to be at the bowl games. Or we love to welcome people outside of obviously this season of life to our office. We have a museum that talks through the history of Chick-fil-A and how we've shown up in the community and in different ways throughout I guess the last few decades that our company's been around. So those are certainly experiences that people can tap into as part of being in our loyalty program.
Nice.
You get to see the Batmobile, right, Lauren?
Yes,
I think that's in the lobby there, right?
Yes, Zach.
Yes, I've been there. It's good.
Lauren, thank you for definitely inviting me down, because that was it was a treat certainly to see not only that, but the space that Chick-fil-A corporate provides for innovation. For people to have the space to come up with ideas, and we'll leave it at that. I know that a couple of years back, obviously Shake Shack moved their corporate offices down to West Soho. West Soho, you call it West Soho, right? And have now an innovation kitchen where they're kicking up things like Korean chicken. I think was the last big one pushed out, right? Mm. So it's we
last yummy one.
I think I would I almost venture to say to folks out there listening, if you're part of a brand, emerging brand, and you want to do innovative things, like make the space for that innovation, right? That seems to be a necessary step, not only in people's time, but like even in the physical space. Well, look, we're going to wrap up in a few seconds. I have some folks in the Q&A, some folks over here. Hector has asked, in your own words, some of the advantages to create, like basically owning your own code and tech stack. Lauren, Zach, neither of you are dedicated to IT in this way, but so I don't know if you want to, but is it control? Maybe short answer there.
Or I think it's just an acknowledgement of our unique operation. So that is we call it DTT, digital transformation and technology, or IT in most places. This is not my area of expertise, but we have been able to create really amazing operational support for our teams because we own the process end to end. So even like on our kitchen screens, like the customizing that we can do to communicate like different menu nuances and things like that. I'm not sure we would be able to do it to the degree of specificity and ease if we were partnering externally.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And Brandon, what you had said earlier, which is QSR will now be the convergence of a multitude of different channel experiences. Well, that's very easy for the guest and very difficult for the employee. It used to be, actually QSR used to be the easiest work
for the employee
you could do, and now
let's say straightforward, right? It was similar.
Hard work, but easy to teach, right? Easy to replicate. It was always about repetition. And now, effectively, you need like a PhD to know where it's supposed to go and how it's supposed to go and what this person needs and so forth. So I agree with Lauren. I think that the purpose of owning your own stack is probably more in service of your employee.
Wow.
Than anything else, is because your ability to match the innovation speed with your ability to execute and fulfill it. You have to rely on your own tech to do that.
Yeah, two changes externally is not 2x more difficult. It's exponentially, right? It's like an exponential change internally because there is so many things tied to every part of the process. Right. Etkin, I'm going to probably answer this one for you. Etkin's asking, when looking at loyalty and advocacy segments of the guest journey, how do you find insights about as people are going through the different stages of loyalty? I'm going to venture to say that this is still kind of an unexplored space, meaning maybe Lauren, maybe there's a little bit of, is there ways to help people get from the lowest level of loyalty up to red? Is this even something explored today?
That's fair. That's also not my specific area of expertise. I want to speak, but I think we're blessed as a company to have guests who enjoy coming to Chick-fil-A. So I have red status. It wasn't that hard for me to get it. You can also earn loyalty points through any ordering channel. So if you do catering orders, obviously those are usually like higher dollar transactions, and they translate to more points and more status. So we try to make it easy for people, however they choose to dine with us, to earn that loyalty.
Maybe it's a simple answer. Keep giving them good food at a great value. And they will continue, right? Like maybe we just boil it down to that and we're there. I crave both of your food, from time to time, hopefully when I'm also supplementing that with good workouts. You both have great healthy food as well, but I don't eat the healthy stuff. Ruth was asking, she or at least commenting here, she loves how Chick-fil-A operators can offer something for free. Have you thought about providing a couple of options so the customer can select, right? So in this maybe, treat kind of program, or adding more areas to kind of allow the guests to say their preferences. What about, maybe we'll end there. I think that's a good place to end. What avenues do you open up to allow a guest to tell you what they want digitally?
That's fair. first I'll say, hi, Ruth. So good to see your name there. And then I love that you've made the distinction. So there's the proactive sending of treats and loyalty earnings that come usually with like a limited number of options. Sometimes an operator is trying to obviously promote a specific item. Like this year we introduced a fudge brownie. So we wanted to encourage more people to try it. So that was probably a more popular offering through the Spotlight loyalty program. We also have digital offer cards. So if you have an experience in the restaurant or you're interacting with a team member out in the world, there are options amongst that. And then certainly if you are a member of our loyalty program, you can choose based on different point values. Like 200 points will get you a hash brown.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Zach, how are you allowing folks to tell you what they want? Anything? Yeah. Or is this still kind of in development in terms of being able to?
Yeah, I think we've got our traditional kind of write-in channels. As you can, maybe you know this, we have a pretty heavy volume of social followers and always have from the early, and it's just grown exponentially from the early days. We get a ton of feedback right then and there. It's mostly about when are you coming to us, but
yes.
You filter through it and you can find a zillion menu thoughts.
The first social followers for you guys were
the camera,
checking in the camera.
Yeah.
How big is that line? And I remember for those of us that worked and lived in New York during the time when it was just one Shake Shack, you would know where in Madison Square Park the line ended, and you would know the amount of time it would take. And you'd basically see a bunch of banking interns that were standing online trying to get 20 burgers at a time.
Hey, you measured it by the tree.
Yeah.
Each tree was
another increment, let's say. I don't want to say how many hours it used to take to get your shit.
Increment.
Another increment. Well, look, this has been so fun, so great. For those of you in the audience, I hope that you were able to pick up some tidbits here. I certainly have. I mean, I really feel like if we did this once a month, I would be able to build 10 products out of what all the ideas that come out of this and the challenges that we're facing, which is such a good thing, because I think as long as we continue to talk about it and think about it, we will have people, at least on the tech side and on the hospitality side, figuring out the answers to these problems of how do we serve people better. So Zach, Lauren, I cannot thank you enough. Such a great conversation.
Likewise. Thank you.
And thank you, Zach. It was wonderful.
Thank you, Lauren. Yeah.
All right.
I took more notes from you than most people.
So thank you, everyone. We're going to do this again in May. I appreciate everybody. Have an awesome Friday and have a great weekend.
Wonderful. Bye, all.
Bye.